you kind of bat them away as long as you can. You get to the Six Nations, everyone's kind of laser focused on that, and after every game it's like, oh well, what's he done for his Lions chances? Has he helped himself? Has he not?
What did you sense behind Huw's eyes when he put his portrait together for this?
Nothing going on.
It was a brilliant exhibition. Like, all jokes aside, it was just...
Yeah, I guess it's the way that rugby is. People are always looking to find a way to bring the top teams down. So when you're that age, you can't focus for very long. And I probably looked like I was not really paying attention. And that was the feedback that I'd got, was that he just doesn't care.
No, we got a mug with Nescafe in it. I thought it was going to be like a silver tray. And
Tell me, I've got to ask, did you nick a teaspoon? You might nick a teaspoon and you got the pals.
I wouldn't have wanted to. They weren't very good.
Well, look, a huge welcome, everybody, to our very first episode of Warrior, a new podcast with a difference from Glasgow Warriors. This is the show where we'll dive deeper into the personalities of your favourite players and learn more about their stories, as well as gain some fascinating insights from people at the top of their game outside of the rugby bubble. To kick us off, we have two brilliant guests today. Our first non-rugby contributor is an incredibly talented artist who has been commissioned to produce portraits of Dame Judi Dench, Graham Norton, mayors, judges, and even King Charles III himself. He has been named Sky's Portrait Artist of the Decade, and if you're a Glasgow fan, you'll have seen his remarkable portraits of the club's 4 British and Irish Lions at Kelvingrove Museum earlier this year. Gareth Reid, welcome to Warrior. Great to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And of course, alongside Gareth, one of Scotland's most recognisable rugby players, a man whose portrait Gareth displayed just a few months ago at Kelvingrove. A 3-test line in Australia, mega try in the second test, a URC winner with over 50 Scotland caps and 23 test tries, and of course one half of the iconic Huw Pilotu centre pairing. Huw Jones, Achilles and all, is in the house. Welcome, Huw.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk about the Lions first of all. You mentioned a little bit about the injury that you've been battling. You've got through that tour. A 3-test Lion. How do you reflect on all that you achieved in Australia?
Yeah, it was the pinnacle of my career. Definitely the biggest achievement. Winning a Lions test, playing in all 3 of those tests. I'd be sort of probably wrong. Well, I felt like I got a bit lucky. You obviously have to be good enough to be selected and be there in the first place. Gary Ringrose, who is now a very good friend of mine, having spent a bit of time together on tour, and he's genuinely one of the nicest people I've ever met, struggled with head knocks on the tour and was unavailable for all 3 tests. So that's part of the reason. I think, had we both been fit, I think I'd still think I was in with a shout to play. Who knows? I wasn't in the sort of the selection meetings, but yeah, obviously with him out, it meant that I played all 3 tests, which is huge. I know the reason I say lucky is because I think on the other side of it, there's so many boys who are out there who didn't play the test, who were incredibly unlucky not to play. So the guys that did play, the sort of the 23 for each weekend, we're like the privileged few who get to sort of represent that group and go out and play sort of the biggest games of our careers, which I'm incredibly thankful for. And the fact that we went on and won the series was just incredible. Yeah.
Do you think luck does play a big part? I mean, for both of you, really. Obviously, you're incredibly talented operators at what you do, whether it's painting these astonishing portraits, whether it's doing incredible things on the rugby pitch. How much does luck play a part in opening a door? Which I guess once you've opened that door, it's up to you to seize the chance to walk through it. Does luck play a role in all of that?
I'd say it's most of it.
Really?
Yeah, I would say, like, without it, it's very hard to do anything, I think. Weirdly, I was thinking about this whole thing on the way here, and I actually did a speech from my old school before at the end of their term before the summer, and that was kind of the central theme is, you know, appreciate luck, but be ready for when it happens. So, you know, you can't do one without the other, I think. And it's, you know, I appreciate what you're saying about the, you know, having these kind of opportunities presented to yourself through no doing of your own. But you've got to be completely ready and you've got to have done the work in the lead up to it and be ready for it.
Yeah. I was reading up on some of the stuff that you'd spoken around before the show, Gareth, and a quote that struck me when you were you were interviewed about some of the portraits that you've put together, that a real portrait can reveal the soul. It's not just a picture or a piece of art. What do you mean by that? How do you tap into that creativity when you're portraying somebody like that?
I don't know about the soul, but it's like you're trying to kind of get a sense of the person's presence when you're doing a portrait, like make them, so it's not a flat representation of them. It's a kind of whole, you kind of feel them there. They're kind of within a space, you kind of sense space around them. Mm-hmm. So it's more like their presence and like some kind of connection to the viewer. So we're trying to make the, say it's a portrait of, like, say, Huw or whatever. You're trying to get something kind of going on behind his eyes, and so it's just not a dead flat portrait. You're trying to get a sense of the person. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know about the soul, but definitely presence of somebody. So you kind of feel them. Yeah.
What did you sense behind Huw's eyes when you put his portrait together for this?
Nothing going
on. It was a brilliant exhibition. Like, all jokes aside, it was this awesome exhibition. I'm sure a lot of our fans, listeners, viewers will have seen it or even attended the event at Kelvingrove, where you unveiled the 4 portraits of the guys who were selected for the Lions tour. Mm-hmm. What did you tap into when you were painting this beautiful specimen next to you?
Well, again, it's just you're just trying to make. There's a difference between a photograph and a drawing or a painting. One is like a snapshot moment, and the other there's kind of time elapsing. So there were. I was working from photographs from all the players, so there's ones that just don't work for what we needed to do, but there are ones that really did work, and the ones that did work where you just get a sense that they're kind of there's time, and it's not a instant snapshot. There's something going on there. Some kind of, a connection with the viewer. It's hard to explain actually, but you can see it. You can see the difference, the ones that don't work and the ones that do work. But I think that's the key.
And what was that whole experience like, Huw? Not so much on the tour itself, but the preamble to it. There was some amazing footage of you guys all together at Scotstoun in the team room watching that announcement. I think for you, it almost looked like an element of relief. Because I know you'd spoken in the build-up about, like, I have to go on this tour. But we'll talk about the hard times you'd been through just pre the previous Lions tour, World Cup 19, not getting the chance to go to Japan and so on in a little bit. But did it feel like relief? And you get presented with the portrait. Does it bring it home that it's happening? I've achieved this lifelong ambition.
Yeah, definitely. I think relief was definitely the overarching feeling, because whether we admitted it or not in the build-up, it's all we could really think about.
Of course.
We were sort of asked questions by journalists, the media, from literally the beginning of that season. I remember before sort of pre-season game, I'm pretty sure I was asked questions about it. So you kind of bat them away as long as you can. You get to the Six Nations, everyone's kind of laser focused on that, and after every game it's like, oh well, what's he done for his Lions chances? Has he helped himself? Has he not? And so you get to that point where, and especially the week leading up to it, I wasn't fit at the time. I was trying to recover from this Achilles issue, and Shone was kind of the same, and we were in the gym. I remember it was just the two of us, and we were trying not to talk about it, but it's all we could talk about, and we're sort of thinking every scenario in our heads, and sort of, I kind of said to him, I was like, look, I just want you to know, if you get picked and I don't be upset with me if I look resentful. Because obviously you're going to be so gutted. And he was like, look, I'm exactly the same. I knew that it was all he was thinking about. I feel like between the two of us, I'm able to sort of switch off a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I could see that he was stressed. When it got to it, we didn't have to be in the room. They told us that you can go home, you can sort of listen along in your car. But we thought, look, we'll be in the room for the meeting. It is what it is. No one's gonna be rude to you if you're not picked. You might get a pat on the back and you just sort of get in your car and go home. So we were glad that we were, because we got the nice sort of reaction video. Everyone was there to congratulate us. But yeah, it was just, my heart was pounding. They dragged it out, obviously, like for all it was worth.
That must have been torture.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be, I can't remember, I think it was maybe at 2:00 or something. And and we thought that was it, announcement 2:00, and it only happened sort of maybe 30, 40 minutes later. So they had all this preamble stuff going on, all the chat. They did the forwards first, and then it came to the backs, and you just sort of going through the alphabet, waiting for your name to come up. So it was pretty stressful, but yeah, I think just relief afterwards.
Yeah, I mean the footage was incredible. I think you had your head in your hands just with this outpouring of relief, as you say. Did it mess with your head in the build-up when you're coming off a game, or you're worried about what your Achilles is doing and your tendons you're talking about? Did it play on your mind a lot? Oh, I've not had my best game there. Oh, I'm not quite fit. Is that going to affect my chances? And obviously, us in the media, because it is the thing on the horizon, especially when you're not necessarily in a finals match. It's the thing for us as journalists and commentators to focus on. It dominates the column inches. Everyone's picking who they'd have in their squad, who they'd have in their first Test 15 for the opening game. Did it get to you a little bit in the build-up?
No, I wouldn't say it got to me in terms of it didn't affect the way I was sort of training or playing. There was obviously sort of chat around it, and you were aware of that. But I think I was still able to focus on the task at hand in terms of that week's training and preparation for a game. There was an extra sort of layer of pressure, I suppose, more than you usually have, which is, I mean, you usually have a lot of pressure as it is when you're playing for Scotland, but just that extra layer of probably individual pressure that you're applying to yourself. You want to do well for the team. You have the team's plan that you've been training all week, and you want to go out and implement that and be sort of the best teammate you can be, but then at the same time you want to show the best of yourself. And I wasn't sort of trying to go off on my own and do sort of special things and create these highlight moments, but you definitely are aware that sort of there's eyes on you.
You're being judged.
You're being judged in everything you do, and so yeah, you probably put a little bit more pressure on yourself which is maybe a good thing, because you're doing all the little things. There's no hiding place. You know that everyone's watching, and so probably I would hope that it brought the best out of me.
Yeah.
Probably worse if you're apparently nailed on as well. If it doesn't.
Well, yeah. You maybe don't want to be in that position where
Yeah,
everyone's expecting you to, and all you can do is sort of diminish your chances. Yeah, you want to sort of be giving yourself a little boost each time.
I think maybe a few of the Irish guys, I don't know them personally, maybe felt that because they'd had such a high and they'd been so dominant, and then this year's Six Nations they weren't quite as dominant. People ask questions about the squad being older. I don't know, it's got to be tough. Obviously the majority of them did get picked, but there's nowhere to go but down, I guess, if you're at that pinnacle.
Yeah, I guess it's the way that rugby is. People are always looking to find a way to bring the top teams down. So whether it is an age thing and thinking, oh, cool, this group's run its course, and maybe they need an injection of youth, and maybe that youth's not ready. So people are always looking for a way to level the playing field, I suppose. So maybe there was a bit of pressure on those guys who have been successful for so many years, and then suddenly you're thinking like, oh, are they past it? I don't think they are.
Do you think they are? Eh?
No, not at all. I mean, having sort of met all those guys and played with them, I was, like, rightly so, I was so impressed with everyone who was on that tour. There was no one there, and this is rare that you would in any international setting, but there's no one there that you'd be like, oh, he's not up to it. That everyone was just world class, which was brilliant to be a part of, because training quality was so high, and the games as well, the things that we were able to do, you may not always get that with a club team.
Yeah, so. Of course. Last question on the lines before we move on and throw forward a bit. Did anyone in particular, just based on what you're saying there, really impress you? Someone that you didn't maybe know, you hadn't played with? And also on a personal level, did you connect with anyone that you maybe thought as an opposition player was a pain in the backside? Or you really, you know what it's like, let's not pretend that we're all pals when we go on the rugby pitch, and especially in a Six Nations Test match, there's a huge amount of animosity and aggro, and of course you target the skill sets and weaknesses and perceived deficiencies of your opposite player, whether it's you or whether it's somebody else. Was there anyone that you maybe had a professional dislike for that you grew to enjoy the company of?
That's not really my style. I don't really have a professional dislike of anyone. I think what I really enjoyed about it was getting to understand people for who they are, rather than sort of just on the face of it, what you see on the pitch. You might find guys you find them a bit irritating when you watch them or when you play against them. But then when you actually kind of just get to know their character,
Yeah.
it's not that you think they're a bad person or anything. You just like, you then understand why they are the way they are, which I just found really enjoyable to just get to know the guys. I think in a short space of time like that, I don't think anyone's ever going to sort of show their worst self. Everyone was kind of making an effort to be the best version of themselves. So I don't think there were any disagreements. I think everyone kind of got on really well. And it was definitely to the sort of, it helped us. It helped us as a squad because everyone got on really well. The connections were great and everyone was putting in sort of a lot of effort to do that. I think there are probably a few players that I thought, wow, you're better than I thought.
Like who?
Go on.
I think someone like Tommy Freeman, who I know he's already a really good player, but then I watched him and I thought, wow, this guy is one of the best. I just thought he was brilliant. And yeah, there are probably quite a few players like that. I could name the whole squad really, to be honest, because it was just general little things. Elliot Daly as well. He obviously he left through injury, but the way I probably hadn't thought about it much before, but he's so experienced. It was his third or fourth maybe Lions tour. He's got however many England caps. He's been around for years, and just the way he spoke, the way he operated, I just thought this guy knows what he's doing. So I think I definitely learnt a lot from the players around me and the coaches. But it was just great to understand players, everyone's sort of different personalities.
Yeah, we're speaking a lot about pressure so far and how you handle pressure. I think Huw, for yourself, it's obviously channeling that pressure into something positive on the rugby pitch when you're standing in front of 90,000 people at the MCG in a decisive Lions test. Gareth, for you, that pressure maybe manifests a little bit differently. You're sitting opposite King Charles or some of the most famous people in the world, painting them, portraying them. What does that feel like? What's it like sitting opposite the King, having been commissioned to produce his portrait?
Pretty surreal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a strange one, that, because it was so strange and surreal and huge, and I couldn't really get my head around it. And then but then when I went to see him, I thought it was going to be like in a throne room or something grand, but it was up in his place in Aberdeenshire, and it was very, very low key. I met his assistant. She gave me a cup of coffee. It was just in a mug.
Just like coming in here.
Yeah, well, just a mug with Nescafe.
Did you get the china or did you get the paper cups as
no,
well?
I got a mug with Nescafe in it. I thought it was going to be like a silver tray. And
Tell me, I've got to ask, did you nick a teaspoon? You might nick a teaspoon and you got the palace.
No, I wouldn't have wanted to. They weren't very good. And then we got shown over, and like where I met him was honestly like a garden shed, like a big, like glorified garden shed, but it was nothing more. So very, very low key. And then obviously when he just came over and we just said hello, and then he sat for me, and then so in that session I was just I was doing a drawing of him, but we're kind of talking a lot of the time, and he's obviously a great talker, it's part of his job. So the conversation was flowing, and I was trying to draw at the same time, and you can't really mix the two. So the drawing actually wasn't great at that time, but it didn't feel like there was a huge amount of pressure to do a reveal or anything. He didn't want to see it afterwards. So that drawing is okay, but there wasn't a huge amount of pressure on it. And then the second time I saw him, I was kind of just taking photographs and, chatting again. But obviously the pressure's there because you're thinking about the end point. This is going to be a big picture. It's going to hang in Hillsborough Castle. But you kind of, again, it's luck played a huge part because the way he sat, the weather was beautiful. On the second day, the weather was beautiful. First day, the weather was very dull. Second day, he was sitting outside. He was wearing a completely different suit. And the way he sat just presented itself, and he looked like the painting, the way the painting is at the moment. So again, you're kind of relying on these elements of chance kind of presenting themselves, but then be ready to kind of like capture it. And but yeah, I mean, it's more, it's that whole thing about pressure is I have started to try and think of it as the privilege thing, trying to think, well, would I prefer this not to be happening?
Yeah.
that you don't. So you just think of it as an opportunity, and obviously they're nerves, but that's the way you want things to be.
What kind of things did you talk to him about? Or are you because you're trying to concentrate on the drawing? Is he
I've
telling you
signed an
stuff,
NDA, so
and you're sort of custard pie, or like what? You're not replying to him?
No, I think certainly that first one. Well, actually, I had 3 sittings with him.
Yeah.
The third one was in Clarence House, but I didn't need that at all. I'd started the painting. I knew what it was about, so I just kind of took that as an opportunity to just go and have a chat with him.
Of course.
See the inside of his living room. Yeah, okay. All sorts of things. I mean, he's a big art fan. He's a big stuff he does at Dumfries House with the artisanal crafts, old fashioned crafts, keeping them going, and so very interesting. He's interested in a lot of stuff, so it's easy to chat to.
Yeah. And is it just you and him?
Yeah.
Or is there there's nobody, there's like an armed guard or anything? I've got visions of.
There's Metropolitan Police walking around with machine guns in his garden.
Yeah.
But apart from that, no, it's just me and him.
Wow. Do you
crazy.
get like searched when you go in or anything? Or they go check out the paints and stuff like that? Like, does it work?
Yeah, like a knife in there for sharpening charcoal and stuff. But no, I mean, they check your passport. You do a lot of checks to start with. Check my Northern Irish passport. But there's more checks to start with and a bit of paperwork. But when I was there, it was very informal. Just me and him in a garden shed.
What about when you did Dame Judi Dench, when you put her portrait together? I mean, again, it was an incredible piece of art, and you've got her, I think, looking over her shoulder with a kind of shawl. What was that like?
That was for the TV show. That was, they'd kind of collected up the 9 previous winners of the Sky Portrait of the Year. And the city was Judi Dench, so we had like between 4 and 6 hours to draw or paint her, all standing there. And they kind of timed. Yeah. That's an unnatural way for an artist to work. Performative, competitive portraiture doesn't exist in the world outside that TV show. So, but it was an exciting. It was a good day.
Yeah. Was it a strange dynamic, that being surrounded by your peers, knowing that it is a contest? It's not one of you's been commissioned, but it's relaxed and informal. Are you? I mean, is it like flashbacks to school exams? You're like, has she put C for that one, or what has she put for that multiple choice?
You do have a
glance over at somebody else's easel, or
I mean, I've done it. I've probably done it now probably 5 times. That kind of situation, and it is strange. You are walking around the room and checking out other people's work. Oh no, Jesus! Like, this is, trying to work out what kind of chance you've got. But yeah, it's a very strange, very, very specific kind of skill set. But luckily, again, like I happened to be, what I was doing before that happened to kind of train me quite well for that show. Like I was teaching quite a lot. And in the class, there was a model, and quite often you do a demonstration to show the other your students. So they'd be standing around, maybe 14 people, and I'd be doing a drawing of a person within a 1 hour, 2 hour time frame. So I was doing that a lot, and that's not something that people do a lot. So then when I was transplanted into that environment, I was kind of quite ready for it. Yeah,
for sure. It's fascinating psychology behind it. Huw, I want to talk a little bit about some of the hardships that you've had in your career. We're talking about the psychological challenges of operating at the elite end of any environment. I think in what you guys both do, those are probably heightened just because of the unique nature of being an artist, being somebody creative, and being a professional sports person. There was a time, I think, to paraphrase Micah Richards, you burst onto the scene with Scottish rugby around 2016, 2017. You were capped over in Japan, you scored some worldies, a double against Australia, some big tries in the autumn tests, you end up signing for Glasgow from the Stormers, and it looks like everything's trending this way. And then, for whatever reason, those opportunities dwindle. There are perceptions around what your character's like, which must have been really tough to handle, what your defence in terms of your tackling, your reading of plays was like, which again, I guess you can accept professional criticism if it's fair, but if you think it's not fair, that's a tough one to swallow. Talk to us about the impact that had on you, and especially your parents as well. I remember you saying that you go and visit your mum and dad and you'd allow them 3 questions about rugby, otherwise it turned into like a full almost like post-mortem analysis of what you've been doing on the pitch and why wasn't this working?
Yeah, that's still the case. They have a limit on questions. Yeah, I guess it was a difficult time because I never seemed to get the answers I was after.
Yeah.
I was certainly questioned while at Glasgow about whether sort of I was prepared to play the so-called not as important games, or whether I would sort of turn up for those as opposed to sort of what they'd seen me do in international games. I think there was a contrast between what they thought the quality of my play was between playing for Scotland and playing for Glasgow. It was difficult. I think through that time, I think across my career, my defence has got a lot better. So at that point, definitely I had stuff to work on. But I had stuff to work on in all areas of my game as well. I think I've improved all areas as I've sort of gained experience, played more games and got a bit older. So the most frustrating thing was not being able to play games to try and showcase that I could do those things. I spent a lot of the time just on the sideline, just watching. And I think that was frustrating, having come from sort of Western Province and Stormers, where I'd played quite a lot for Western Province. I'd then come over and played, sort of started all the games that I'd been available for Scotland. And then to be told, "Oh, you're not ready yet," was kind of frustrating and confusing at the same time. And there was definitely competition for places. I understand that, and coaches are just going to pick the team that they think is the best, and you just have to accept that sometimes. But yeah, I think it was a frustrating time. What probably got me out the other end of it was a kind of just eventually just being given games to play. It's you kind of find yourself in a rut, and I see it with loads of other players as well, where they just don't play. And what happens to some players is that they end up just kind of fizzling out, and they retire from rugby, or they try and get a move somewhere else. Essentially, I got a move. I played sort of 1 year out of position at Glasgow, at fullback mostly. And then I ended up getting a move down to Harlequins, and I think that was a big turning point where I was completely out of the Scotland setup. I wasn't involved in those squads, but what it allowed me to do was kind of just restart my career, just give it another boost in a different setting with different players around me, different coaches who sort of just, I had a fresh start where they could see, right, this is the player we've got, watch me in training, right, we think he's pretty good, we'll play him. And that's essentially how I just rebuilt again and managed to string enough games together to sort of play well and get back into the Scotland squad. Eventually came up to Glasgow a season later, and it's been completely different. I think that the years I've spent at Glasgow in this sort of second period of my career have been totally different from the first sort of 4 years I had, where I was struggling for game time and not really sure what was happening with my career. It was just going downhill, and I couldn't really seem to stop it. Whereas since I've come back, it's kind of been the opposite. It's just got better and better.
Where do you think that false perception came from in the first instance? Because I remember interviewing you years ago, and you spoke about how even as like an under-10 cricket player, you got dropped from a game because the coach thought, based on body language or based on the way that you were around the guys, you didn't care enough. It's such a damaging thing, and it's one thing in the media that you never do as a journalist. You don't ever question somebody's attitude, a professional sports person. You can talk about their skills, not that we're really qualified to do that either, but you can give a professional critique, but you don't talk about someone's attitude, someone's work ethic as an athlete. Where do you think that came from? Because it is such a personal thing, and I know even back in your Stormers days, the boys would call you Humble Huw as a bit of a Mickey take, just based on the fact you're a confident young guy. Do you think that confidence maybe fed into people thinking he's a Billy Big Time, he doesn't care, he's not as invested in the less high-profile games as he should be?
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is. There's probably a couple of factors. I think I remember that Kent Under-10s team, and I think they were chatting to us just outside the nets, and I mean, when you're that age, you can't focus for very long, and I probably looked like I was not really paying attention. And that was the feedback that I'd got, was that he just doesn't care. I think when I arrived in South Africa, I was very different to sort of, obviously came over, had this sort of private school English accent, that people could sort of look at me straight away and be like, this guy doesn't, he doesn't
full of
care.
it.
Yeah, he's full of it. And I probably lent into it a bit just because it's funny. And I found it funny and they found it funny. So I probably sort of allowed them to encourage that side of it. I think I was told by one of my best friends at school, his dad once told me I had a Mick take his face. So again, it's probably things like this that I don't realise I'm doing that feed into, it can maybe come across that I don't care or that I'm not really focused, which is not the case, obviously. I would say that. But I think in general I do work hard. I'm prepared to sort of have fun with it and sort of, I guess I push people's buttons sometimes, but when it really comes down to it, I put the work in. And so it's probably, like I said, these have been sort of different times throughout my life where things like that have been brought up. But I think I wouldn't have got to where I've got and achieved what I have if I really was like that, sort of if I was lazy or wasn't putting the work in or didn't really care so much. So I like to think that I've kind of proved that wrong. But yeah, it has been one of those things that people have sort of at times thought of me.
Yeah, I think there's a side as well that people don't see. Obviously, on the pitch, in the media, it's very easy to be portrayed as X, Y, and Z. But I know, again, from speaking to you in the past, that when you go and try and talk to the coaches at the time, Dave Rennie in particular, struggled to connect with them a bit, struggled to even to get your words out when you wanted to ask, why am I not playing? What's happening here? What more do you want to see from me? Did you crumble in those moments? What was it like trying to have that conversation with him and just feeling like I can't quite verbalise what I want to say? I'm worried about coming across the wrong way because maybe he already thinks that I'm a certain way and I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a different sort of kind of setup to what I'd maybe been used to with Western Province. There was like quite a lot of communication with the coaches where they'd come and find you and let you know, like, and give you sort of fair reason to why you may not be playing that week, and exactly what they wanted you to work on. And also at the time I was still affiliated to the university side, so if I wasn't playing for Western Province I could just go get a game there. Whereas once I got to Glasgow, there was nowhere for me to go. I was either playing or I wasn't, and that was it. And that went on for weeks at a time. And I think I eventually got to the point where like I need to have a chat because I wasn't getting much feedback. But yeah, I just crumbled in those situations where I had to take a list with me and just sort of read off my list. Okay, these are the things that I want to know, I want answers for, and sort of, am I going to play? If so, when? And if not, like, what do I need to do to try and get a game? And I came away from those conversations not really knowing where I stood, which was tough because sort of I felt that I'd gone in there and maybe not given the best account of myself, and looked like an absolute shell of myself and low on confidence. And I thought, well, I'm never going to get a game now. So yeah, those situations I found really tough, and I think I've definitely got better with them as I've gone through my career. It does help that, like, since then I've been picked more often than I haven't, and so I've had less of those situations. But yeah, it was something that I definitely struggled with, was sort of trying to stick up for myself in a situation where you're asking for something at the same time.
For sure. What's that like in the art world, Gareth? Obviously, with what you do, your work will speak for itself up to a point, but is there a case where you need to go and put yourself in front of influential people, or you need to push what you're doing in order to grow or to build a profile or to sell some artwork, whatever it is you're trying to do? And how does that personality element of it feed into it? Because I imagine there are some, stereotypically speaking, there'll be some big personalities in the creative world as well.
I suppose the parallel is maybe being on a short list for a big portrait that you'd love to do or something, and then you've got to, you know, make the application, put your portfolio forward, write something sometimes, and then you get selected or you don't get selected. I suppose that's the, you know, that's the parallel there. When I did, and profile is everything then, or like you know, your public, how visible you are is completely everything. After I did this show, the first show, and then the second show, like that completely changed because you're just visible. And instead of going from, you know, being on long lists, and then we get that email saying thank you for your application, we're not gonna go with you this time, which I had plenty of. It just suddenly changed to like short lists, and then you're on a short list, and then you get the email that says you've got the job. But that, I mean, that's what happened with at the time Prince Charles. Actually at the start they didn't even tell me it was going to be him. They just said it was a prominent guy.
Understatement of the century.
So I didn't adjust my prices accordingly, unfortunately. Yeah, so that I think that was one case where I was kind of hovering around the, you know, receiving these big portraits, and then that one kind of tipped over, and then you just get, you know, you get invited to do things, and so yeah, it's really that kind of public perception or public visibility is so important.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes such a difference.
Is it quite a struggle at the start of your career? Because there must be a million artists out there just desperate for a break.
It's a struggle, yeah.
Well, what was that like as a young fella?
I suppose, I mean, it was quite. I went to art school in Glasgow, obviously, and then from then I'm trying to remember. I got a studio quite quickly, so I started working quite quickly, and then had shows fairly early on. So it's kind of like tipping by wee bits here and there, but obviously, like you know, when you're in your early 20s, you don't need a huge amount of money and stuff. But also, that was a kind of a boom time in the art world, especially in Ireland. You could have a show, and then opening would be really, really busy, and there'd be a kind of panic for people to buy the work, and then you might sell most of it. So I always say, like, it was going from, you know, starting at zero, you know, spend half the time, you know, going into my overdraft, and then I'd have a show, and then it'd be back to zero again, kind of thing. But so for the first few years of my career, it was all that. It was very, very feast or famine kind of thing. And then, but slowly, just you do things, you know, start doing the portraits, and then little things happen. You get a bit more visibility. And like I say, when I did that show, it just changed completely everything.
Yeah, we spoke about the impact that I guess the negative side of what you've been through, you had on your family or your dad. I mean, your dad, I don't know if I told you, your dad DM'd me once after we did an interview on Rugby Pass a few years ago, and he DM'd me to say, it was a very nice message saying, basically, thank you for not painting my son as something that he's not, that he's, you know, he's not arrogant, he's not presumptive, if we're giving him space to tell his story. When you're going through that period as a young artist, Gareth, what are your family saying? Did you have support of your family to go and do what you want to do and be what you want to be, or were they a bit like, come on son, we need to get yourself a trade? Or because I know, like, I'm being really stereotypical, but some parents, some families would be like that, going, well, listen, will you get a real job, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I know so many people that happened to, and you know, a lot of people got, you know, an A at A-level art, and then they just didn't go to art school. They just, you know, binned it because it's just such a mad thing to think you could have a career as an artist. And I did have the support of my parents, like really did from the very start. And I think it was because they, like, my dad certainly always knew what he wanted to do. You know, he was always quite certain about what he wanted to do, and he probably thought of that as a bit of a gift as well. You know, knowing that there was something you had passion for, that was your chosen path. So he was, because I had that, he was quite supportive of it, of me, and then so was my mum. So it was a lot of support. So it kind of gave me the confidence to kind of, you know, all in for the art career. And I had so many friends doing the same thing. It kind of felt natural. The like Glasgow's got such a kind of great art community anyway. So it didn't feel like a huge ridiculous thing to do.
And now here you are sitting in front of the king and all these celebrities.
Yeah. Weird stuff happens. Yeah.
Our careers are full of that.
Yeah.
And when you look back now, Huw, at the quivering centre who would take a crumpled sheet of notes before Dave Rennie and struggle to get your words out, how big a transformation has there been over the past few years? Obviously, going down to Quins, you come back up, you play a lot of fullback under Danny Wilson just to get in the team and get minutes and bring your confidence up. You work on elements of your game, and Gregor's spoken a lot about bringing your defence up to the same level as your attack, which he feels you're now world class in both elements. You're a lion, you're a 3-test line, a try-scoring test line, broken the 50 caps mark for Scotland. There was a time where you must have worried, am I ever going to play test rugby again, much less be a lion? And now, 3-4 years on, you've achieved so much.
Yeah, it's definitely been sort of a big turnaround from that point where I think when I got down to Quins, I was not happy, but I was accepting of the fact that I probably wouldn't play for Scotland again.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you're 28, 29 at that point?
I was, 28. So I was thinking at the time, I was like, look, that might be it for my Scotland career. I'll just be a good club player. That'd be my aim. I'll just play good club rugby, and whatever happens, happens. And things obviously turned around, and I came back to Glasgow, got back in the Scotland squad, and those games initially went really well, and it's gone well from then. But I think in terms of sort of myself as a character, I've grown up a lot. I've gained a lot of experience and probably a lot of confidence with that in my ability and also my thoughts around the game. When I was younger, I would never speak in a meeting. Even if I thought I had a good point, I would wait until afterwards and maybe say it to one of the senior players or maybe sort of mention it to the coach. And more often than not, they'd be like, oh, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. You could have said that in the meeting. But I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Whereas now, although I've not really sort of in a leadership position, I'm not a captain. I've rarely been... I was vice-captain once for Scotland on my 50th cap. But I think that was more of a token gesture, actually. But I'll take it. It'll go on the TV.
Make a wish job.
Yeah. But I think that I've definitely gained a lot more confidence and been more in sort of those conversations where I can have input in terms of sort of the game plan for the team and what we'll be doing. And I speak a lot more in meetings now than I used to. And I think that level of confidence, and maybe the coaches seeing that level of confidence in me, has probably helped me on the field as well. So I've definitely developed that for sure. I was actually just thinking about what you were asking about when he was younger. Did his parents ever sort of think? Because I had that as well. I never expected to be a professional rugby player when I was younger, and I wasn't in academies and stuff. And there was definitely. I remember my mum sort of saying to me, she's like, "You probably need to sort of
get out of the slug and lettuce in Cape Town and go get a job."
Yeah. Look, you need a degree. You need to do something. And I would say that rugby players should definitely get degrees. I don't have one, but something I should probably work on before the end of my career. But yeah, I definitely had those conversations as well. But yeah, from that point to where I am now, I've grown up, and I think that's a natural thing. I think you see a lot of players do that.
Grown up enough, but not enough to think about life after rugby quite yet.
Not quite yet.
31. You've got a few
years.
Years yet. Another Lions tour, 2 more World Cups. We'll see. What do you want to do after rugby? Have you had any serious thoughts about what might come next?
Not really. Not serious thoughts. No. I need to probably have a proper sit down, and now's the time, I guess, while I'm injured. I've got a bit more free time on my hands, is to really sit down and think about what I could do. I think one of the main things is actually just finding out what's out there. I've never worked another job, so I don't really know what other professions entail and what you have to do on a day-to-day basis. Often people ask me when I meet up with friends who aren't involved in rugby, they want to find out about what rugby players do and day-to-day stuff. And I'll ask them and be like, oh, don't worry, it's boring. But genuinely, I would love to know what other people do all day. Because I just haven't got a clue. So yeah, I think I need to find out more about the real world and have a proper sit down and think about what I should do in a couple of years, hopefully.
I hear you.
Are you taking any students, Gareth? You get Huw along to
course,
SWG3.
yeah.
No artist.
Yeah.
Mate, you could be painting the king in a
Make
few
it
years, who
on.
knows?
You never know.
Yeah.
Gareth, quickly before we go, any social channels where people can follow you and enjoy your magnificent work?
Yeah, Instagram. I think it's Gareth Reid Art.
Perfect.
I think that's the main one. Yeah.
And Huw, when can we expect perhaps to see you back on the rugby pitch?
Probably, hopefully, before Christmas, definitely.
Okay.
No
autumn tests?
I don't think so. I think
a
that would
shame.
be a push.
Okay, I was going to ask for your Instagram handle, but I think every Warriors fan will be very familiar with that. Gareth, Huw, thank you so much for being part of our very first episode of Warrior. This is just the start. We're going to have an episode every month with a Glasgow Warriors player and a leading figure from outside of the game. We welcome all of your feedback, and in time, we hope to build in some fan-led elements into this new show. We do hope you've enjoyed this launch of Warrior. Please do follow, like, and subscribe in all the usual places, and we will see you again next month. Cheers, boys.
Thank you.